And good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Tuesday morning edition of Hey, Scotty Back Live. Thank you for being with us. Hope you had a good weekend, a safe weekend, a little extra holiday for a lot of people yesterday with hurricane and then tropical storm Irma passing through Florida, causing all sorts of issues. But hopefully you were able to get through the storm without much of a problem. I know a lot of our friends and neighbors in South Florida certainly are dealing with the issues that Irma left behind, and our thoughts and prayers are with them all the way down to the Keys and to the Caribbean and all those places. So let's just hope that we have good weather and good sailing ahead, as they like to say. Simply put, we were following Hurricane Irma, it felt like, for about 2 to 3 weeks. And I know Jose is still out there. We'll keep a close eye on Jose, but hopefully it'll spin off to the north, and we'll know more about that today. But, it feels good to be with you this morning after following Irma for what was an eternity. So I know our friends up in Alabama and Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, and other parts of Charleston, South Carolina got a big blow yesterday. A lot of people are still getting a lot of rain. So if you're still feeling the effects, then be safe out there. God bless you, and know that we'll be thinking about you. We got a lot to recap from the weekend of college football. We were trying to do a show yesterday, and the internet kept going in and out. We were very lucky here where we were in that we didn't get anything but a lot of, some rain and some heavy winds. Yesterday afternoon it was very windy here, so but we couldn't get up and get the satellite, the connection established. But nonetheless, we are here today to recap the weekend, and just based on what I saw, a lot of people just took the day off yesterday and were able to enjoy some time at home and get that extra. That extra day. We've had back-to-back weeks where we had Monday off. We had the Memorial Day or Labor Day holiday, I should say, and then we had, of course, this past this weekend with Hurricane Irma. So hopefully we can get all that behind us. Now, Irma caused a lot of games to be canceled last weekend and is still causing games to be canceled this weekend. Several games already being canceled. Other games in jeopardy of being canceled or rescheduled, and we'll talk about that in just a bit. But we're glad you're with us. If you're just joining us, hit the like button and hit the share button this morning. We would greatly appreciate that. That helps us grow our listening audience and helps us do what we do. We appreciate all the kind words out there and all the support. It means a lot to us. So if you would, hit the like button and hit the share button, especially that share button. That share button there means everything to us because that helps grow our audience. And that puts us in front of your Facebook friends and family. And so we appreciate that so very much. So it is all good. Man, it is all good. Just so glad that we're able to be here and do these shows with you every morning. We've got a lot to get to, but first, before we recap the college football weekend, let's thank our sponsors for helping us bring you our show every morning. They include, here in the Panhandle of Florida, they include our good friends at Second Amendment Shooting and Sport in Niceville. They're right there on John Sims Parkway in Niceville, across from the Sears and the Pep Boys. And they do everything in-house now so that you don't have to worry about going outside to get your paperwork done and finding an attorney. They do everything in-house. They have an in-house attorney, and everything is done right there to expedite the process at Second Amendment Shooting and Sport. Also, our good friends at Bayou Bill's Crab House, located at 2 locations, at Inlet Beach and Santa Rosa Beach. For you, they have the best seafood you're going to find. It's where the locals go to get their crabs and seafood in the Panhandle. Check them out at Inlet Beach right there in front of the Winn-Dixie. And then also at Santa Rosa Beach on Highway 98. And you're going to love it. Now that things are kind of quietening down a little bit, it'll be a perfect time to head on out there this week and enjoy some of those great crab legs. Also, our friends at my-pack.com. That's my-pak.com. Check them out at my-pak.com for those amazing backpacks. They're still available, and you can get yours for only, I think it's $24.99 now. I think it's what it is. That includes your shipping and everything, but check them out. Of course, we love those backpacks. You will too. We've been showing you the backpacks have that interchangeable window in the front where you can print out whatever you want to print and put there. So check them out at my-pak.com. And our friends at 98 Barbecue, Santa Rosa Beach. Go by and see John Sealing and the great folks at 98 Barbecue. They have incredible barbecue food and more. All of their great stuff there. Their gumbo, everything is fantastic. Burgers, ribs, you name it. John Sealing and his staff do a great job there. Well, what a big weekend it was in college football, and of course the big game with the Ohio State-Oklahoma game. Everybody was talking about that one. The game that featured the two highly rated teams going head-to-head in Columbus, and it was Baker Mayfield and Oklahoma who roared into Columbus and just really dismantled Ohio State. Ohio State just did not look like the Ohio State that we have seen in the past. They were beaten off the line of scrimmage. They were beaten in every aspect of the game. It was just a complete dominating performance by Oklahoma. And really you can tell in a game like that those dominating performances start to really show themselves in the second half when the teams start wearing each other down. At the half, the game was tied 3-3. And then Oklahoma scored 14 points in the third quarter, 14 points in the fourth quarter to put the game away. And from that point forward, I mean, it was a dominating performance. And Baker Mayfield had 3 touchdowns and planted the Oklahoma Sooner flag in the middle of the field at Ohio State after the game. And of course, he has come back and apologized to that. But he figured he owed that to the Buckeyes, who beat up the Sooners in Norman last year and then stuck around to embarrass them by singing on the field and what have you. Mayfield really looked like, I thought, a Heisman Trophy candidate. 27 of 35, 386 yards. I mentioned those 3 touchdowns and even said after the game we should have won by more. But now Ohio State's got to figure out what they're going to do. J.T. Barrett didn't have a great game, 19 of 35 for 183 yards. The Dobbins kid, the freshman running back, 13 carries, 72 yards. Ohio State's not out of the mix on the national championship yet, but, man, I got to tell you, they got a long way to go. They've got a long way to go, and Oklahoma, now a legitimate team in the national championship hunt, no doubt about it. And the way their schedule sets up at the rest of the year, you got to know that Oklahoma is going to be a team that's going to be very difficult for people to deal with. And you look, for just a minute, we'll take a quick look at their schedule and just tell you what lies ahead for them. This week, they have got Tulane coming to town, the Tulane Green Wave. Beyond that, they're at Baylor, which we see now Baylor is really struggling. Then they've got Iowa State at home, at Texas, at Kansas State, Texas Tech at home, at Oklahoma State Saturday, November 4th could be the big one for Oklahoma. That's Bedlam. They call that series Bedlam. Then TCU at home, at Kansas, and then West Virginia. But they will be favored in every game they play the rest of the way. So I thought Oklahoma was as dominating as I've seen a team look all year. They just dominated from the word go over Ohio State. The Georgia Bulldogs go on the road, get a big win over Notre Dame. Georgia, number 15 in the country, beating Notre Dame 20-19, doing it with a true freshman quarterback, Jake Fromm, as Jacob Eason was out. We told you about that all week last week. But it was the Georgia defense that was so impressive. And we told you the week before, Georgia, this is a team that has a nasty defense. Lorenzo Carter, Davin Bellamy, Raekwon Smith. This Georgia defense is fantastic. And they throttled Notre Dame. Absolutely throttled Notre Dame. Notre Dame only had 56 rushing yards in the game. The Wimbush kid passed 20 for 40 for 211 yards. Jake Fromm went 16 of 29 for 141 yards, so nothing spectacular. Sony Michel had 13 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. Nick Chubb, 13 carries, 63 yards. There's that two-headed monster at running back to carry it 26 times for 136 yards. That's exactly what Kirby wants there. Kirby Smart at Georgia has a team that is based on great defense, and boy, they are a mirror image of what Kirby was doing at Alabama, no doubt about it. And let me tell you something. There were a lot of Georgia people at that game. If you watched that game, there were a ton of Georgia people in South Bend for that game. It looked like half the stadium was in red. A lot of the stadium was in red. And truthfully, the game wasn't a pretty game. It was a defensive battle. There were a lot of penalties. I think Georgia had 12 penalties. Notre Dame had 8 penalties. All were just at critical times and just kept shooting themselves in the foot. And I got to tell you that it was not a game you would write home about, but that was a fantastic football game at the end and a big win for the SEC. Georgia comes back home to face Sanford this week before playing Mississippi State next week. Notre Dame will face Boston College in the first of 2 straight road games for them, but a big win for Georgia. The Clemson-Auburn game, boy, that turned into a defensive struggle as well, as Clemson held on to beat Auburn 14-6 to win that ball game. Very disappointing day, I know, for Auburn and their offense. The Auburn offense had 30 yards passing, 38 yards rushing, and 68 yards of total offense. 68 yards of total offense. That's it. And that is a Clemson defense that was just strangholding on Auburn. I mean, it was just that good. Kelly Bryant, who took over for Deshaun Watson, ran for 2 touchdowns and took a couple of big hits, a couple of big sacks, and just really kept on ticking. It looked really good. I thought he passed it for 181 yards. He ran it for 59 yards and really dominated the game. He took over the game, I thought, and had to leave the game once after taking a pretty big hit and losing his breath there, but came back in and just looked fantastic. Auburn's got some issues. They got to find a way to get its offense going, and it's got to start with the offensive line. Jarrett Stidham was just chased all over the field by the Clemson defenders, who had, I believe it was 7 sacks on the day. So it was a tough day for Auburn, and that offense under Gus Malzahn has been so good for so long. Now they've got to figure out a way to get things turned around. So Clemson's got some things they got to work on, but their defense is as good as you're going to find. And I think that's what we're seeing here in the early part of the season, whether it's Clemson's defense, LSU's defense, Alabama's defense, whether we're seeing the Oklahoma defense, I thought played very well. So defense seems to be the name of the game early on in college football. Now, Auburn did play without Kerryon Johnson, who nursed a hamstring injury all week. And Clemson was not playing with one of their starters on defense. Safety Van Smith had a knee sprain. But Clemson keeps their title hopes alive, and they will now have their biggest challenge coming up. You talking about one of the games of the year. Clemson will be at Louisville this coming Saturday. That is going to be the big game in college football. Clemson at Louisville. Auburn will have Mercer at home this week before getting into conference play in the SEC. That was a big ball game as well. We'll talk about that one as we progress through the rest of the night. LSU dominates Chattanooga 45-10. Big news for LSU we'll talk about all week is that Arden Key, their outstanding defensive end, has been cleared. He will return to action against Mississippi State this week as LSU goes on the road for the first time to take on the Bulldogs, Mississippi State. Number 6 Southern Cal dominated Stanford 42-24 on Saturday. Out in the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Southern Cal looked very good. Sam Darnold looked very good. And keep in mind, Stanford had beaten Southern Cal 7 of the last 10 times, so that was a big win for Southern Cal. They're definitely right there in the title hunt, no doubt about it, as they continue to move forward. South Carolina with a big win over Missouri, 31-13. One of our 5-star plays of the weekend. South Carolina was actually getting 3.5 points on the road, but they were able to win that game. Much better team there. Oregon held on to beat Nebraska 42-35. Oregon was up 42-14 at the half, and Nebraska rallied but couldn't quite get over the hump there as Oregon and Willie Taggart improves to 2-0 on the season. Big win for them. Tennessee kind of haphazardly rolled over Indiana State 42-7. Vanderbilt beats Alabama A&M 42-0. Arkansas loses a big ball game at home. We really liked Arkansas at home in this ball game over number 23 TCU, but I think what you saw is Arkansas's got a long way to go to figure this out, especially offensively, as TCU wins 28-7 over the Razorbacks. Alabama, no problem with Fresno State, 41-10 as the Tide continues to get it done. But it's kind of funny, in the 10 years and now, I guess this would be the 11th year that Nick Saban has been in Alabama. In Game 2 of the year, Alabama has yet to cover a spread. The spread in this game was 43. We had Fresno State plus the 43, and Alabama wins 41-10. Big win for them, but they don't cover the spread. Just kind of those little trends you keep an eye out. Texas gets the bad taste out of their mouth. They roll up San Jose State 56-0. game in which they needed. Indiana goes to Virginia and wins 34-17. Another one of our big games that we liked on the weekend. So nice one there. Penn State, no problem with Pitt, 33-14. So that's just a few of the games from this past weekend. We got a lot more to talk about. We want to say hello to all of you. There's my buddy Patrick Matthews out there at Bayou Bills saying hello. Of course, we were talking about Bayou Bills earlier this morning, and they'll be open all week for you to come out and enjoy what is the best place to come eat the freshest seafood, the best shrimp, fish, and more. It is Bayou Bills. You're going to love Bayou Bills out there in Santa Rosa Beach and Inlet Beach. So good morning, Patrick. Good morning to LSU Melinda, who says hello to us this morning. We appreciate her stopping by this morning. She is awesome. Let's see here. Let me see who else is saying hello. Melinda said, by the way, go Tigers. How about that number 7, DJ Chark, IE? Yeah, he looked really good, especially in the return game. Our buddy Steve Archuleta says, good morning, Scott, from Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Hey, buddy. Good morning to you, my friend. Let's see here. Andre Morris says, hotty toddy. Yeah, good morning. Ole Miss with a big win this weekend. They've got a big game at Cal this week. And yesterday, by the way, was day one of the NCAA hearings for Ole Miss. So we'll talk about that too. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We got more to talk about. We will do all of that when we come back. There's so much to get to this morning. We're glad you are with us. Don't forget, if you're just joining us, to hit the like button, hit the share button. We appreciate you guys being with us this morning. It means so much for us. Or if you're listening to us on our audio-only version of the podcast at heyscottymac.podbean.com. That's heyscottymac.podbean.com. Check out the audio-only version of the podcast there as well. So we'll take a quick break. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere. Hit that like button, hit the share button. We're coming right back right after this. Glad you're with us, and happy Tuesday, everybody.
And gentlemen, presenting the 235-member Michigan Marching Band. Band, take the field. Under the direction of Professor Jamie L. Nix, the M Fanfare.
And welcome back, everybody. Glad you're with us here on a Tuesday morning as we talk college football and more. What a fun weekend it was for college football. And, of course, wasn't a fun weekend if you're having to deal with Hurricane Irma. Hopefully the weather will improve. Excuse me. And we won't have to deal with any more storms for a while. But truthfully, for us in the panhandle of Florida, we dodged a pretty big bullet right there. I think most people would agree that we dodged a huge bullet simply because I really thought there was a chance that thing might get out in the Gulf of Mexico, but it did not. And we're thankful for that. Now, we are heartbroken for our friends in the Caribbean, in the Keys, up and down South Florida, St. Petersburg, Naples, Tampa, Jacksonville, all those places that just were inundated with wind and rain. And then Charleston, South Carolina, with a lot of rain and wind. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. So hopefully you came out of it okay, and hopefully everybody else was able to get through the storm. So, but glad you're with us this morning. A busy morning as we recap a weekend of college football. We want to hear from you. If you could just send us a quick message there on our page and just say you're watching this morning and where you're watching or listening from, we would greatly appreciate that. We got so much going on. Don't forget, we've got our Friday afternoon college football recruiting show that comes up every Friday, and then our Saturday morning college game day show that's every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock where we preview all the games. So hopefully you get a chance to watch that and be a part of that. But we just went over some of the news and notes items the scores, I should say. There are games now that are already being canceled for this weekend, and a lot of that is because of what Hurricane Irma left behind. And just wanted to quickly kind of give you an update on the very latest on what we are already knowing and hearing. Now, there's no word yet on the Tennessee at Florida game. That is a big game that is played obviously at the third week of every year and means so much to Tennessee and Florida. That game is scheduled for the Swamp. Now, we have reports that in Gainesville that Ben Hill Griffin Stadium had no damage and it's good to go. But, around that area, we will have to wait and see kind of what happens in there. Now, the other big game in the state of Florida this week, Miami at Florida State, has been moved. That game has been moved. It will not be played this Saturday. So for all you Florida State Miami fans, in case you missed this, they went in and made this announcement. Really, I think it was Saturday morning they made this announcement, but it will be played on October the 7th. Both those teams had the open date available on October the 7th. So the Florida State Miami game will be played on November the 7th. Now, a couple of the quick things. Florida International was scheduled to play at Indiana this week. That game has been canceled. No word on a makeup yet. University of Central Florida was scheduled to take on Georgia Tech. That game has been canceled as well. So the Central Florida-Georgia Tech game has been canceled, and the Florida International-Indiana game has been canceled. Now I'm going to take a quick peek here and just see, because this will happen. This will change obviously throughout the day, and we'll keep an eye on this. I will tell you that as of now, Illinois is scheduled to play South Florida, and I thought I saw something on that game, and maybe if somebody watching this morning has seen something, they can post something here as well. But I have not seen anything this morning. I thought there might be something there, but I still show it as being played Friday night in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium this coming Friday night, Illinois at South Florida. That's what I'm seeing at the moment. I don't see anything on here that would show me anything otherwise on that game. Let's see here. Other games, let me just quickly, we'll do this together, of games that could be affected. Let me just look, and y'all bear with us. I'm scrolling through here real quick to see, looking for teams on the sheet. I mentioned the Florida International Indiana game. That has been, that game also has, I mentioned that, has been canceled. So Georgia Tech Central Florida officially canceled, and I mentioned the other game, the Florida International Indiana game, and the Georgia Tech Central Florida game. Let's see. I'm just looking to see if anything else here, and if you guys know more. Like I said, I'm not. I thought I had seen something on the South Florida, but I don't see anything yet. But now the Florida Tennessee game is currently on as scheduled, unless they make a decision this week. They can't do it. So, and you really have to feel for Jim McElwain and the Florida Gators. Man, they have just been battling hurricanes for back-to-back years. And I know my buddy Patrick Matthews at Bayou Bill's a big Gator fan, understands what we're talking about here. It just seems like that they've been really snake bit the last 2 years, the Florida Gators, that is, we're trying to get games played because of hurricanes. You know, the whole LSU deal last year and this year Irma, so they've already had to cancel one game. Some schools are going to wind up with a 10-game season. Some schools are just going to have a 10. It's just going to be one of those years. There's nothing you can do about it. So, UConn South Florida game this past week was canceled, and they're going to try to reschedule that. They are working on that. You're going to hear a lot of news coming out today and tomorrow about conferences trying to reschedule things and what have you, but nothing really news at this point. But anyway, we're going to keep an eye on that. As soon as we know something about Tennessee and Florida, we will let you know. But right now the game is as scheduled. But I did mention the Florida State-Miami game has been postponed until October the 7th. So that is a big one. The Seminoles and the Hurricanes, that has been postponed until October the 7th. So there you go. Ole Miss yesterday had its very first day in front of the NCAA Committee of Infractions. That committee meeting in Covington, Kentucky, just right outside of Cincinnati there at the Embassy Suites Hotel in a conference room. You've got a lot of players involved in that. When I mean players, I'm talking about people, not players. The only actual players I know that are there are Mississippi State's Leo Lewis, who testified reportedly yesterday in front of the committee about what he was offered and everything that happened with his recruitment. Of course, he wound up at Mississippi State, and day 2 of that will continue today. Now, there are 21 different allegations that Ole Miss is having to answer to, and from what we understand, 14 of those were addressed yesterday. They'll have another 7 today. The committee set aside 3 days to get the hearings done, but it looks like getting through 14 yesterday means they only have 7 more to go. I would suspect that they would get through the others today, the other 7. But the more serious of the infractions were heard yesterday, if just based on the level of infractions. Now, there's some serious ones to talk about today as well. But you get a feeling that the committee is going to wrap up everything that they are hearing. Now, the committee is made up of current and former athletic directors, school presidents, coaches. I know Bobby Crimmins, who is a longtime Georgia Tech basketball coach and then coached down, I believe it was College of Charleston, who's retired now, is on that committee. He's hearing the Ole Miss infractions. And so, you're going to get this committee who's going to hear everything, but they're not going to make any decisions probably for 6 to 8 weeks, possibly even longer. So fans wanting to hear, okay, what was the take out of the meetings will not hear anything. You will not hear anything at all. Now, for Ole Miss, what they're trying to do is avoid the penalties that they've already self-imposed becoming even greater. Yesterday, of course, Hugh Freeze was there. All the attorneys were there. Matt Luke, the current head coach, was there. Barney Farrar, who was kind of labeled as the rogue assistant who was doing all of the cheating, was there, allegedly doing all the cheating. The university president, Jeff Vitter, was there. All the big players in this were there yesterday, and they were all in the same room going over this. And so, you wish you could be a fly in the room and hear all of this, but obviously that is closed. And so for Ole Miss, what you know that today they're going to try to get everything done today and then be done with it. And once they're done with it, then they can get on about what they've got to do. Ole Miss has got a big football game. Matt Luke is missing practice yesterday and today. Hopes to be back for tomorrow. And Ole Miss has got a big game at Cal this week out in Berkeley, California. So for the Rebels and for Matt Luke, you want to get this over so you can get back on the practice field. So. But this thing is a lot of going back and forth. Also, Florida Atlantic coach Chris Kiffin was there. He's now coaching down with his brother Lane Kiffin. He was there. He had to answer to some of the charges. He's on the staff with his brother at Florida Atlantic. He left Ole Miss to join his brother after Lane Kiffin was named the head coach at Florida Atlantic. So there's a lot of speculation out there from the meetings, but there's a gag order coming out of the meetings. The parties involved are not allowed to talk about any of it whatsoever. So, you won't hear much of it until maybe a Public Records Act brings forth transcripts from it. Someone asked me yesterday, do they have a court reporter, so to speak, there to record every word? And, I don't know. I don't know if they have a court reporter there. I don't know if they videotape it. audio tape it. I just don't know. I mean, it varies. I'm going to assume that some sort of recording was being made, whether it was a stenographer, whether it was a court reporter, whether it was audio or video. I'm quite certain that something would have been done there so they could have at least a record of that, and then they could have it for their own deliberations, because the committee, as I said, will take everything they hear yesterday, today, and then tomorrow if they need tomorrow, and they'll take it, and then the committee must come up with a consensus on what the punishment should be. Some of these things may get thrown out. The committee could accept what Ole Miss has already self-imposed as penalties, or they could add to that. So we'll see kind of how that plays out. But no real big news out of that yesterday other than it was there. It lasted almost, I believe, it lasted almost 14 hours yesterday. I think that's right. It may be a little off on that. And let me check and just say, I thought I saw a number that due to that they were all there. No, I'm sorry, 9.5 hours. 9.5 hours. I thought 14 was a little long, but 9.5 hours. The committee was all there. So Ole Miss fans wanting to hear something, you're just not going to hear anything until perhaps late October, November, even into December. And it could go longer than that. So if you're an Ole Miss fan, you just want to get it over with and get it behind you. And we'll see how quickly the NCAA will move. And you get a feeling that the NCAA may want to move on this pretty quickly and just get it behind them as well. And we'll see kind of how that plays out. But anyway. All right, we'll take another quick break. When we come back, a few more things to talk about here on this Tuesday edition. Glad you are with us. A good-looking day out there. Hopefully you will be able to enjoy it. We won't have any high winds or rain or anything crazy. Hopefully it'll be a good day for everybody, and you can enjoy the nice weather. So we'll take a quick break. We're coming right back right here on Hey Scotty Mac Live. And welcome back, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you as we continue to roll on. So happy that you're with us. Busy day indeed. And again, thanks to our sponsors at my-pack.com. Those amazing backpacks at my-pak.com. Also want to thank our friends at Bayou Bill's Crab House. Bayou Bill's Crab House, 2 locations for you to check out. Inlet Beach, Santa Rosa Beach. And also, when you go there, tell them we sent you. Great people at Bayou Bill's. Also, our friends at Second Amendment Shooting and Sport in Niceville. They do everything in-house. You can go there and you can see for yourself and enjoy for yourself all the great seafood, the ribs, everything that they've got. Check them out at Bayou Bill's. And then, of course, when you go out to Bayou Bill's, you can watch all the games and just really enjoy just a good time with your friends and family at Bayou Bill's. We thank our friends at Bayou Bill's for always being such good supporters of the show. We appreciate that so very much. And then also, we want to thank our friends at 98 Barbecue for all they do for us. What great people at 98 Barbecue. And our winner this week is Steve from Navarre in our score contest. He came within 1 point of getting the Oklahoma-Ohio State game right. That is some good picking right there. So Steve in Navarre is going to get a $20 gift card from our friends at 98 Barbecue. Well, we are going to have to deal with some technical issues, it looks like, here just for a few minutes. And when we do that, we'll get everything done and get back to you. Wow, we're gonna recheck in with you later today. So I hope everybody has a super Tuesday. We're gonna check in with you later. We got some more college football talk. We're gonna get you started with your morning headlines and game recap. But we're gonna do a reset. We'll be back with you later today. You guys have an awesome Tuesday. We love you. We thank you so much. And you have been watching and listening to Hey Scotty Mac Live right here on our wonderful webcast and our podcast. Make sure to check it out at heyscottymac.podbean.com. Have a great day, everybody.